In today's video, we'll be installing an aftermarket steering wheel on my 1991 Mazda Miata. The install is very simple and straightforward, and don't worry if you don't have a Miata, the steps are essentially the same for every vehicle with a few exceptions. I opted for a deep dish suede wheel that was just $40 on eBay. I'm going for a budget build for my Miata while keeping all the upgrades functional and not overly flashy. As you can see, it looks great on the interior of the car. I would really recommend this upgrade for anyone who is looking to improve the looks of their car interior and add a bit of functionality as well. For this installation, all you'll need is a steering wheel and what is called a boss kit. Essentially, this adapts your current steering wheel hub to fit most aftermarket steering wheels. Make sure that the hub you buy will fit your vehicle. You won't need to mix and match the steering wheel to the hub though, as they are made to be universal. And as for tools, you'll need some electrical tape, pliers, a socket wrench with a 10mm socket, a Phillips screwdriver, and a 21mm socket. I didn't have something as big as 21mm, so I used a wheel lug wrench, which works just as well. I found that it was much easier to work with the top down, but of course this is impossible with a hardtop car. Next, you'll want to disconnect the battery by removing the negative battery terminal. This will prevent your horn from going off or your airbag from deploying, which is very important. The first thing we need to do is to remove the wheel itself. On most vehicles, it is just a few screws at the back of the wheel. For the Miata, there are 2 Phillips screws on each side and a 10mm socket on the bottom. It may be easier if you turn the wheel to gain better access to the screws, but I didn't really have to do so. If you're having a hard time taking the wheel off, try searching Google for the removal instructions. With everything off, you should be able to remove the center part of the steering wheel, which exposes the wiring and more screws and nuts for you to take care of. Next, you'll want to disconnect any connections to the horn or airbag. There will be some sort of connector with both the airbag and horn harnesses attached. You'll want to remove the connector and cut off everything except for the horn wiring. Before we get to the big nut in the center, make sure that your steering wheel is pointing straight. To tackle the big center bolt, I use my wheel lug wrench, but of course you can use a socket as well. It is a bit hard to take off initially, so make sure you brace yourself for that. Loosen up the nut, but don't take it off completely. The next step is to free the steering wheel from the hub, and that is a struggle in of itself. I recommend grabbing the steering wheel and working it off. The nut is there to prevent the steering wheel from hitting my face in case it does come off when I don't expect it to. Once the steering wheel is off, remove the nut and take off the wheel. Next, we'll install the boss kit. The kit came with a bunch of accessories, but the only things I needed was the hub itself and the plastic shroud. This was roughly $10 on eBay and looked to be of decent quality. The next step is very straightforward. You'll want to slip the hub over the gears on the steering column. This may take a few tries to line everything upright. Also make sure that the top symbol on the hub is pointing straight up. Once everything is straight, replace the center nut and tighten it down all the way. You don't want it to be extremely tight and strip the nut, but you do want it to be nice and snug. The last thing you would want is to have the hub come off during a drive. Next, we'll move on to the steering wheel. You can find these online at very low prices, and comes with the necessary tools and hardware for installation. Before we install the steering wheel, we need to understand how to wire the horn. For most vehicles, this will consist of 2 wires, one for the horn and one for a ground. To find the right wire, reconnect the battery and touch individual wires to the metal hub until the horn goes off. I have mine wired as shown, but yours might be different. The white wire would be the ground attached to my metal hub, and the red wire would be connected to the actual horn. I also found out that the metal wire sticking out from the side triggered the horn, so I snipped that off and covered it with electrical tape. With the battery reconnected, I found that the horn now works nicely. As I've said before, this is a trial and error process, but it's definitely worth it. In this clip, you can see that the horn is now installed, with the ground tightly bound to the metal hub. You can now slip on the protective plastic shroud and install the steering wheel. Simply line up the holes and insert the screws, but don't tighten anything. Once all the screws are in, tighten them in a zigzag pattern. And once the screws are tight, you're good to go. And that's it, you've now completed the installation of your brand new steering wheel. At this point, it is best to test drive with a wheel to make sure that everything is in working order. As always, thank you guys for watching. If you like what you're seeing, please feel free to like the video and subscribe for more videos. And as always, see you guys next time.